Hello everyone, welcome to Filmmakers and their films. And with us we have Raghavendra sir, who's a well-known film critic. Over to you, sir.
The occult is a name used for the supernatural element. Okay, here in fiction, it's a supernatural element. In a broad sense, it is something which is beyond the normal, the paranormal happening, right? See a miracle, for instance. Okay, the unexplainable, the miracle, all that miracle in fiction, all that would be occult in some sense. It's not necessarily ghosts or goblins or whatever, right? By and large, it is difficult to entirely give up the supernatural element in narrative. Okay, that is because a story needs a sense of which way it is going to go, what it should mean. Like, for example, if you take something like the reward for virtue, for instance, you look at the reward for virtue and punishment for evil, okay, which happens in most narratives, right? There is no reason given. I mean, there is no reason attributed to why virtue should be. So the question is, there is something working the world constructed, the world of the narrative includes some element which is not really human element, right? It's usually some kind of occult element. That's usually an occult element. It does not mean ghost. See, I mean, the teleology in a narrative, when a narrative goes toward a certain purpose, fulfills a certain purpose, which is actually some kind of purpose for which is unexplained in terms of the universe cannot explain these happenings. That occult element is there because all literature, all cinema has to have this element of mystery about it, right? Okay, because as I in one of my earlier talks I talked about it. It seems to be performing some ritual function. Art is some kind of, shall we say, some kind of submission, okay, to the divine or some such thing, by which it's a kind of man creating a world which is as mysterious as God's, that sort of thing. Okay, that's basically it. Okay, so that the teleology of a story, that is the way a story goes in some way, a kind of melodrama, for instance, that would be in some kind of sense an occult happening, right? Occult thing is introduced. I will gradually explain this as we go along. In Pather Panchali, for instance, if you look at the entire cycle of life and death and birth, rebirth and all that, okay, that entire thing has a cycle in Pather Panchali, which is, about the continuity of life going through this, okay, going through cycles. That itself is a kind of occult look at, this kind of occult thing you may not find in Bicycle Thief. You get me? Okay. In Bicycle Thief, the kind of occult thing which is there in Pather Panchali, you may not find. Though I'm not sure that there is an occult element. If you ask me what the occult element in Bicycle Thief is, I may not be able to. But it seems to be more materialistic in sense that there is a, cycles being stolen, one cycle being replaced, that sort of thing. It's more materialistic thing, which means that occult element is absent in a certain kind of realism, right? Okay, now if you take the occult as a way of acknowledging the mystery of the world, the knowability of it, unknowability of its laws, if it's didactic, meaning of didactic, does the word mean to you? It means with a clear message, right? Okay, it has a clear message which could be derived from religion or it could be derived from anything. That clear message that it's a purpose. Like, for example, you take last session's thing on Kemada. If you take Kemada is a didactic film. You get me? Okay. So there's no occult element in Kemada. There's no mystery in Kemada. It follows a certain, a Marxist or Fanonian thing of, a Fanonian prescription of how the world runs, right? Okay, there is some colonialism, there are people revolting against it, there is hope, there is this, there is that. So that element is there. So that didactic element of the world being constructed according to human laws, right? The world of Marxist narrative, for instance, is constructed according to human laws, right? Which means that once you say that the world is constructed according to Marxist principles, the world, that we know all history is class struggle. If you say all history is class struggle, and historians go around trying to find class struggle as the basis of all historical happenings, that occult element all automatically goes. You get me? I mean, please interrupt me if you have any problems with this. Okay, so the occult element disappears once you say that the world is constructed and entirely according to laws understandable by man, right? Okay. So this is the thing. Okay, in Indian films, when you take, for example, when you take Indian films, can you name a, what do you say, of a story in Hindu mythology which God intervenes? The point is something like Harishchandra, the Raja Harishchandra. You take the story of Raja Harishchandra, you will find that Raja Harishchandra, the gods actually step in. Okay, there is no occult element here because the gods are watching all the time, right? They're watching from the top, right? And when this king is tested, everything which happens to the king from his misfortune and everything, the gods are responsible for that, the way of testing him. And finally, the gods themselves relieve him of his misery, set him back, reinstall him on his throne, give him back his dead son and wife, or restore them to him. So the entire thing, so that there is no occult element. You get me? Okay. It's the same thing with Hum Aapke Hain Kaun. Hum Aapke Hain Kaun, is there an occult element? Anybody can answer this question? How is the thing resolved in Hum Aapke Hain Kaun? Divine intervention, right? Okay. There is this dog. Okay, there is some prayer is made to the divine, and the divine looks at this god or dog or whatever, or a beam of light or something comes, falls on the dog, and the dog miraculously does something, and it takes a letter or something, goes and gives the letter to somebody. So the whole entanglement of the story is resolved because a dog which has been miraculously empowered by the divinity, okay, comes and relieves everybody of their misery. Okay, now so that means that the intervention by that dog by divinity in the form of that dog is itself some indication that there is really no mystery in the universe, right? So I think all commercial Hindi films, or all Hindi films of some sort, have this belief, right, that the right, for example, if you take a war movie, okay, you take some, what is that last war movie which the something see, then the nation itself, patriotism itself becomes a motivating thing. Uri, sorry, Uri. Okay, patriotic thing itself becomes a way. Okay, it becomes a kind of empowering thing. These are not, that occult element is by and large not its presence is not very clear in Indian cinema. I won't go into that right now. It will lead me along a different path. Okay. Now, if you look at horror movies explicitly dealing with the supernatural, can you name a couple of films? Exorcist and Omen, for instance, okay, are horror films, and they are actually using the occult element, right? But what happens in these movies, what happens in Exorcist and Omen is that the mystery is resolved. The mystery is what's it called, explicated or whatever. The mystery is solved when using a text like the Bible, for instance, right? Use the Bible predicts in the book of Revelation something, the devil, something is going to happen, the beast is going to come, the book of Revelations. So finally this text itself, the divine thing, text itself becomes a way of explicating. Okay, I'm not going to deal with that today. Okay, the fact that the Dracula, the very presence of a cross, the presence of certain things. Of course, the point is, what are these presences? What exactly is the book of Revelations? It is occult in the sense, okay, it is occult in the sense that it is still the Bible, the Bible itself is an object of mystery, right? The teachings in the Bible are themselves the word of God, right? The word of God, not simply as a, shall we say, humanized God, as in Harishchandra. Okay, in Harishchandra, it's actually a God manifested as a human being with powers, right? That's completely different from the Yahweh or the Jehovah or whatever, the God of Jewish religion, right? It's some more mysterious. So in some sense, the God of Christian religion, Jewish religion, all these Middle Eastern religions have this mysterious God still. You don't know. For example, this thing of Job, the story of Job. He was punished by God for God knows for, nobody knows for what reason, right? So so that entire thing is that the God, the Jehovah Godhead or whatever, is himself mysterious in some, is mysterious in some sense. So that itself becomes an occult element by and large. So okay, so then you come to the supernatural elements can also be a metaphor for emotions like desire or guilt. For example, you take a ghost story. I and you can't become ghosts, right? To become a ghost, you have to die, or you must live in some extreme state of something unfinished business must be there. It's only when that unfinished business is there that the ghost, like for example, deep passion which unfulfilled, deep anger, deep hatred, okay, deep desire for revenge. These are the things which, so what happens is that the ghost itself is some kind of metaphor for some unfulfilled desire, right? Okay. So that itself becomes a kind of way by which the by which the what's it called, the unfulfilled desire itself is given manifestation in this ghostly shape or the supernatural shape of this creature of the ghost or whatever. Okay. Now in this talk, what I've tried to do is I've tried to pick movies where this mystery of the supernatural is not resolved, but is generally retained in some way. Okay. I want to sort of purpose is to identify how these supernatural elements are used in complex ways and not simply to produce thrills. If you take something like, if you take something like Exorcist or Omen, it's the affirmation of a known thing. The fact that the Christ, this thing is there, that the divine is there. The same thing with Dracula. It's an affirmation of a known belief. It's that kind of thing. The power of the cross, the power of the Bible, all this stuff, right? Okay. So this is the thing. So I've picked movies where the supernatural thing is slightly, that element of mystery is retained, and it doesn't quite, ambiguity is there, that mystery has to be retained. It's not simply a way of propagating a certain existing belief, right? That existing belief, as in the case of the Bible or the Quran or whatever, could itself owe to some occult thing. But the point is, I'm trying to look at more complex films, how it works, right? Okay. We'll go to the first film, which is The Innocents. This is actually based on Henry James story called The Turn of the Screw. I don't know, all of you have seen it? I think, yeah, I won't ask each one of you individually. Okay, now the point is, in this film is about a woman who becomes a governess in a household in a mansion haunted by two ghosts. One is a valet and the other is a former governess who are lovers. The two are lovers, but they are now dead. Now this woman, Miss Giddens, I think she's called Giddens, okay, she is required to look after these two children. There's an indication that these two dead people were in some horrible, sadomasochistic relationship of some sort, sexual relationship. Is never specified. All we know is that those ghosts are there. That man has a what is called a cruel. He has a cruel face. Okay, he has a cruel face. He keeps peering down at her, and this woman is, she takes it upon herself. She feels that these two ghosts are contaminating. They use the word contaminating, corrupting is a word which is frequently used in the movie. Now the point here, the innocence, is that this woman comes from a puritanical thing. Okay, we call Protestant Puritanism, right? So the question is, everything is seen from her point of view, right? And that entire household of that family, that household is in a state of stability until she comes. You get me? Okay. It's in a state of stability until she comes, because the the housekeeper is aware of the fact that these ghosts are there, but the ghosts don't seem to be bothering anybody. This woman specifically starts talking about the ghost and talks about corruption, and she somehow takes it upon herself to rid the house of the ghost, to her house of the ghosts. Okay. Okay. So the question is, the boy being expelled from school. Now, much is made of that thing. It's not explained at all. Why is he explained? Now it's possible, okay, given the kind of schools that they have in England, given the Protestant thing there, given the puritanical thing, the way the schools are thing, and the way normal activities hampered and strict things are brought to bear on the children. Incidentally, I would recommend that you read this story of a chap called M.R. James. I don't know if you've heard of this guy. Have you heard of him? He's a ghost story writer. Just look for a story, okay, it's called A School Story is the name of the story, right? Just check this out. M.R. James, A School Story is the name of this thing, something about a boarding school and all that. It's a ghost story, one of the great ghost stories Britain has produced. You have a look at that story also. Just read it up, just, and you can probably, you can't discuss it to the next thing because there's no time for discussion extra. You can put it up on the whatever group this thing or whatever chat. It's interesting. You have a look at this school story. Okay. So the point is, there is the one scene. So throughout this thing, the relationships between the boy and the girl, neither of them does any harm. But she wants to somehow, remove corruption from them with an evangelical zeal. She wants to, they're corrupt in some way. But what exactly is the corruption? It must result in some harm to somebody, right? No harm, no cruelty of any sort happens. But somehow she's convinced that they're corrupt. And there's a scene in which the boy kisses her full on the lips. Okay. She's completely stunned by that thing that he keeps kisses her like that. But again, it's more a question of her own repression. Now, what I mean is that this film is ambiguous about whether they're really ghosts or it's all a figment of her imagination, whether it's because of her upbringing, because of her puritanical efforts in the thing, right? You get me? Okay. So basically it is that. It could be seen either this way or that way, as a thing of repression, her actions of her. And finally, what happens? The boy dies. The harm is done by her in her efforts, in evangelical efforts to cure the, to remove all the, shall we say, the contaminants from that household. You get me? Okay. So this is basically the harm she does in her the zeal to remove these elements from the household. Okay. Okay, let's go to the next film, which is Ugetsu Monogatari. Okay, when we come to Ugetsu Monogatari, it's about two potters based on an 18th century story. There is chaos around them, war going on. In its moral viewpoint, it is somewhat similar to Brecht's Mother, Courage and the Children. Have anybody read Mother, Courage and the Children? Are you familiar with the text? Are you familiar with that? I don't know. It was a once upon a time a Staple Productions and all that. It's about this woman who goes on and on and on, trying to benefit from war, selling here, buying cheap, selling thing, and result of which she goes on losing her children one by one to the war. You benefit from war, war will get you is the basic thing. Okay. Mother Courage, because she's all the time trying to, using all her courage to get on somehow and benefiting from the war. Okay. Here he does something else. Ugetsu, he does something else. This is again these potters trying to benefit somehow, trying to take advantage of the war in some way. Okay. And, they are sort of, so they're constantly endangering their families. Come what may. He wants to sell something, buy something. He wants to sell something and have a lot of money. Okay. So basically, the important thing is, okay, now there are two ghosts in this story. Okay, there are two stories. First of all, there are two stories. One of Genjuro and the other is of, what is the other guy's name? Tobei. Okay, two of them. Tobei has also got ambitions. Genjuro has also got ambitions. Tobei, he wants to become a samurai. He wants to become a warrior. Genjuro wants to sell a thing and become a rich man, right? So come what may, he takes all kinds of things and endangers his family. He could have stayed away. That is made quite clear. He could have taken by climbing up some mountain and hiding there. He could have stayed away from dangers. He doesn't do that. He just wants to make money. Therefore, he goes and sells it. Now, the first ghost in this story is Lady Wakasa. Now, the point is, this Lady Wakasa is she and her family were killed. Now, the point here in the whole story is that in times of war, everything is turned upside down, right? The rich are threatened in certain ways. The poor are threatened in other ways, right? It is not that the rich get away. Okay. If you go to sort of India, we live in in India, we live in a very stable society, right? And we talk about stability in India. We are talking about what? We are talking about the hundreds of years, right? Okay. Whoever has been poor hundreds of years, poor today, it is likely, I'm saying, who say, for example, the Dalit or some such thing today, okay, or a tribal today, who lives in poverty today, the chances are that 3 or 5 generations ago, his ancestors would be as poor as they are today. And people who come from, who are well off today, would come from a long line, caste line of people, privileged people with education for 5 or 6 generations. So there is some kind of social stability in India. But this is not the case in a country like Lebanon. A friend of mine in Lebanon, the point is that because war keeps happening so often, okay, these systems of support keep getting overthrown. This is what keeps happening in certain countries which are war-torn countries. They are not like India, where for generations and generations, people of privilege continue to enjoy privilege. People without privilege continue never to get privilege. Okay, it's a completely stable society that way. It's stable in the sense that in India, you look at all the big guys. I'm not so much in politics. Okay, politics is a different realm. You look at bureaucrats, you look at writers, okay, you look at artists, okay, the famous artists in India, you will find that they are connected in some way to other big people. I don't know, it's purely mysterious. Okay, this millionaire is there, he has made very few of these people are not our people. Okay, who have who come from rags to riches story. Very few of them are rags to riches. They've had good educations, they've got they've that sort of thing. It's in India it seems to be that everybody is connected. Politics is a different thing in India. Okay, one of the reasons is that politics is a new thing. Like, for example, because of adult suffrage, adult literacy, adult suffrage and all that, everybody is entitled to vote and they have their own constituencies. Something else has happened. Okay, that if people in politics 3 or 4 generations ago, they could be anything. Okay, now Lady Wakasa is once again a person in times of war. She has also, her family has been destroyed, so she's trying to. There is some kind of, the kind of this Lady Wakasa story is also tragic in some way if you look at it. Her family was destroyed. She herself was destroyed. She never had the benefit of marriage. She has not enjoyed the benefits of marriage. Therefore, she has come back again as a ghost. She has come back with that, see again the hierarchical thing in ghostly circumstance in a society like Japan where hierarchy is very strong. A person's housekeeper, a person's servant comes into her ghostly existence also as a servant. You get me? Okay. There's a story of Kipling like this called the Phantom Rickshaw. Okay, it's an interesting story. Phantom Rickshaw, in which a woman is there. She's actually, she's this man is in love with, not in love, she's having an affair with this woman, Britisher having an affair with a British woman. She's always pulled by 4 coolies. Okay, and this woman, what happens is she commits suicide because he won't have anything to do with her. But the point is, she keeps coming back in the rickshaw, in a phantom rickshaw, and still pestering him. And that phantom rickshaw is pulled by those 4 coolies who also died of cholera. You get me? Okay. The point is that in the afterlife, in hierarchical society, servants will continue to remain the servants of those who, so ghostly servants, okay, become the servants of those who are the main ghost will have a side ghost. The main ghost servant will become a servant ghost or some such thing, which is the way this film shows, this Ugetsu shows it, right? So basically, he's not making any comment. He's dealing with the hierarchical society. Okay. The point is, the gains in war are illusory. The gains in war are illusory. You cannot have these gains. And this ghost, this Wakasa's ghost, becomes a manifestation of the illusory nature of the gains of war, right? When he goes back, there is a second ghost, right? So the second ghost is once again, it's a benevolent ghost, his own wife's ghost. And that benevolent ghost is trying to make the point that it's the family thing, it's the presence of the family. The second is a kind of metaphor, you could say, for the benevolence of the family. It's a kind of metaphor. It's somewhat different from the first ghost, right? You get me? I mean, people have any issues with this, you please get back to me. It's not the same thing, okay? It is simply a benevolent presence which is there to safeguarding him, and that it could have been a ghost, it could have been a deity, it could have been anything. It could have been a family deity also, right? Whereas Lady Wakasa is an actual ghost. She's actually a human being with unfulfilled desires, right? You get me? Okay. Am I making sense? You chaps have to respond to this, right? Because I've been interrupted so much, I may not be as coherent today as I normally am. So, but the point is, this is the thing. So, second ghost is not exactly in the same thing as this. It's more a kind of reassurance that the family will be maintained, the child will be maintained, that somebody will look upon it. Now, this film has used this ghost as a thing of the folk tale. Now, the folk tale always has counsel to give. You know what counsel? I don't know. It's a kind of advice to give people, right? It always contains. It's not like a moral. It's not like a moral. It's less abstract than the moral. The moral is honesty is the best policy, is a moral. Counsel actually illustrates it through a story, tells you a story, it has a long story to give. So this kind of, which I think you read Walter Benjamin's thing on the storyteller, you'll understand the meaning of counsel. So all these folk tales have this thing of counsel, how to behave. In times of war, you must not try to take advantage of the situation. That situation will kill you, it will turn around and bite you. Okay, this kind of thing. So this is basically the thing of Ugetsu. that this thing of, so he uses the ghost as a kind of, as a moral, as a metaphor kind of thing. One is actually the thing of, Lady Wakasa is a somewhat ambiguous thing. It's a kind of metaphor for both the times of war, things being overturned so that the common people get access to, to romantic attachments with the high and mighty. The other thing is the high and mighty are themselves at the target. They themselves are no longer protected anywhere because they're also targets for other people, right? So that is the basic thing. So he uses the thing of a folk tale. But both these ghosts are there. Any questions about who gets you?
One question, sir,
Please,
about the
welcome.
previous. Yes, about the previous film, sir.
Yeah, please.
When the final scene, how do you see it, sir? Like, the woman and the boy kiss again. So does
Yeah.
that mean that the woman is also possessed by that time?
No, she's not. Her entire thing is outside that, right? No, she is actually suspecting the boy of being possessed. So what the possession of the boy, her thing is that both of them are, the boy is possessed by the demon of by the ghost of that wicked valet. Okay. He's possessed by the ghost, and she's trying to use some kind of intimacy with the boy in order to get rid of that. I don't know what she does. Okay. But she gets into, in order to protect him or something from this ghostly influence, she kills him actually. She results in his death. But she herself is never possessed. That thing of, being possessed, which is the film which I think Exorcist, right? Exorcist, when the exorcist himself is possessed by the devil, goes from this person's body to that person's body, right? That is not the thing here. She remains, she's okay, but the boy dies. Okay, the valet does not jump to her. Okay, you get me? Okay. Any question?
Yes, sir.
Okay, final scene of the innocence, the lady kisses the lip. One make from that? Well, I don't know. I would say that she's trying some extreme thing. You remember the boy kisses the woman also? Okay.
Yes,
The,
yes,
the
yes,
boy
sir.
boy kisses the woman also. She kisses her on her lips, right? So there is some sexual this thing here. It's ambiguous enough. You can make whatever you want of it. This woman is also repressed. There's no doubt about it, right? She's also repressed. So the question is, what exactly are her, motives? What exactly she's doing there? That is left. Like, for example, the thing from psychoanalysis, from the psychological explanation to the occult explanation is very fluid in this movie. It could be psychoanalytical, psychological explanation. It could be Freudian explanation, or it could be the occult explanation. It moves from here to there. Okay, so they don't really clarify which is what. So you can say, interpret it in any way. The film uses that in that way. Okay, it's not going to tell you. Okay, it's not going to tell you that this is occult, this is not. So for some reason she does it. No, it's not explained to us. But earlier that boy has kissed her full on the lips, and she has been quite shocked by it. Okay. Now whether she's taking this particular time, what is the reason she acts like that, we're not very clear. Okay. Okay. Now let's go to Macbeth.
Yes,
No, Macbeth. Okay. Now Macbeth is a very interesting film. All of you saw Macbeth. You've seen it before.
yes, 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 sir.
I love
No,
this film.
not before, not before.
Okay. I really love this film, especially, I mean, the occult element. There are two occult elements here. One is Banquo's ghost. No, but Macbeth has had Banquo's ghost killed. Okay. So the ghost can be seen as a metaphor for his nagging conscience. Okay, for Macbeth's conscience. Because Banquo was his friend and he killed him, had him killed. Okay. The witches I find much more mysterious and much more interesting. Okay. The witches in this film, right? Okay. When you go to the first thing, there are three witches. There are the three different ages, right? One is young, one is middle-aged, and one is old. What do you think is the reason for that? Why has he done that? Why has he done that? Normally, when you have stage version of it, there'll be three witches of the same age, right? Okay. What does this tell you? Three ages. It means that this is a tradition which has been going on for a long time, right? Okay. That means over decades, generations of people, there are people of different generations, okay, who are all practicing witchcraft. And these witches are actually very poor, okay. They live in abject circumstances. They seem to live underground. They seem to have a community of some kind of, community of some sort. And until we three meet again, okay, which Shakespeare uses, has not been used like this before. When you say meet again, it means they are not together. They're not together. They're not sisters. Okay. They're not sisters. They don't live together. They live in different places, and they make the arrive here by appointment. So that this particular thing of occult practice, which is there in the people, in the common people or whatever, which is there, because the kind of circumstances in which these witches live, they're all naked, they're all living underground, right? They're not living under normal circumstances. Seems to be a kind of, that their last, this thing is to have control over forces. And if you want to explain these people, what exactly they are like, okay.
Are they cursed people, sir, in
They're
one
not,
way?
no, that is not mentioned. They're not cursed. They seem to look, there is nothing, shall we say, in this film at least, there is nothing to say that the forces which these people have control over, the forces are evil. There is nothing to say that the forces are evil, right? Okay. Here, the thing is, the main drama of Macbeth, Banquo, of Duncan, of Donald Bain, Malcolm, all this, that entire drama is played out in the realm of politics, right? Okay. Politics is entirely in the kingly realm, kingly realm, whereas this occult thing is outside the kingly realm. Those excluded from political power, from power altogether, those excluded from power who can't exercise power, they have these other powers. Okay, they are excluded from the exercise of worldly power, earthly power, or whatever. Okay. And you look at that first thing, what is that they bury in the sand? The noose, a dagger, and a severed hand, right? What is that noose? Is that? See, the point is hanging, right? And there is hanging going on, the show hanging in the film, right? Somebody's being hanged, dead bodies, people being hanged to death and all that. Okay. And this dagger is again the thing which Macbeth uses. So this politics seems to be ripe with nooses and daggers, right? So the question
Yes,
is,
yes.
these, for example, you look at Shakespeare. If you look at Shakespeare, what are the thing? Tongue of Newton, toe of frog, something, that doesn't have these political connotations, right? What Polanski has done here is introduce three objects which have political connotations within the story. Hand, we don't know what that hand is, right? It's the dead hand of severed hand of somebody, right? But the point is that these three things are put there. It's the hand which is holding the dagger, right? So the question is, it could also be seen as some way. Oh, again, executions, murders, okay, all this practice of practice of politics. So what he's doing is, by showing these witches there, he shows it as some kind of demand for witchcraft from the political arena of some sort. They could be intervening in politics in more than Macbeth's case. You get me? So finally, when the film ends, what happens? The characters, okay, the
Macduff.
last survivors, Macduff and Donald Malcolm, I think, right? They go
Yes.
back to the witches to seek counsel, to seek help of some sort, right? Okay. So the question is, that cycle is repeated, that finally the basic thing is that you have to go outside, you have to go. Politics is finally subservient to the occult thing, which is in the custody of people who are prepared. After all, we're getting occult powers, Hindu, this thing also. To get occult powers, you have to do great sacrifices, right? To acquire these powers. So these people, because of the rigor of water of their lives, they seem to have these powers which the kings themselves lack. You get me? So they have
Right.
to seek outside their own realm. This is the way I see the film. Now, if you look at the Hindi movies, you look at, for example, what is the film Makbul? You look at Makbul,
Makbul.
he replaces the witches with two policemen, right?
Mhm.
Now, what are these policemen? Why? Because they can't deal with the occult at all, right? The policemen are not occult, and they're doing this Kundli thing. Kundli, okay, Kundli is what? Okay, astrology. Astrology is a science. Astrology is not occult. Let us understand this. Astrology is taken to be a science in India. And similarly, karma is, see, let's get this, okay? Destiny, fate is occult. Okay. Karma is not occult. You get me? Karma is not occult. Fate is occult. What is the reason for, what is the fate? Fate, we don't know how fate works. Karma, it's a mechanistic thing. Depends on whatever your actions were in the previous birth, you accumulate karma, and the result of that, happens automatically, almost as a consequence. It's causality, okay, like causality. Like, for example, I do something, I take a certain thing, I risk my family's life in some particular way, my family in some particular way, then that will recoil on me at some point. And it's not the occult thing, it's simply, the
It's
causality, right? It's
it's more of a
mechanistic
science.
causality. Huh?
Yes, yes, sir. It's more of science, sir. I
Yes,
mean,
yeah.
that's
So
the
you can
way.
call it, rather than
Mm,
scientific, which means actually, it means it's more, it's bad science. Let's say karma is not it's scientific, but it's bad science. Okay.
mhm,
It is not occult, like fate is occult, destiny is occult. These things are like,
mhm.
you should not equate karma with fate and destiny, right? Fate and destiny, we really don't know its workings, how fate works. We don't know its workings at all, right? Whereas
Yeah.
karma, there is an explanation for it. Whatever you did in the past existence, it comes along. So what happens is this: what they've done in this thing is, in Makbul, is they've completely removed the occult element from the story. You get me?
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing in Haider. Ghost of
Okay.
what's his name, Hamlet's father, is removed, and you've got a cross-border terrorism or cross-border militant or something, right? So the question is, they are uncomfortable with this notion of the occult in Makbul and this thing. It's the same thing with Othello also, Omkara also, but there the occult is something else. I won't go into that. Okay, it'll just. But the point is this: Indian cinema is uncomfortable with the notion of the occult, because everything must owe to some mechanistic thing. Your mythological things, even mythological things, when Draupadi, okay, is being disrobed by Dushasana in Mahabharata, she she prays to Krishna, right? And Krishna intervenes. It's a mechanistic intervention by God. Okay, it is not occult. There is nothing above the god. If you take the Greek gods are themselves subject to fate in some way. They themselves are not, fully in control. They are themselves are like superior human beings in some way. Okay, they can have children by human beings. Okay, that is the thing. That's very different from here. Also, there children from human beings are there in this in the Mahabharata. But the point is that these gods, especially the later gods, I'm not talking about the Aryan gods so much. Okay, Aryan gods seem to be a little different, but your Vishnu and your later your what is it called, Puranic gods, or a later thing, they seem to function by this, that there is nothing above them. I'm not sure if anybody can correct me on this. Look, I'm actually dealing with somewhat dark in territory, which nobody can be quite sure of, right? Okay. It's not that I know something about some gray stuff about Hindu mythology which you people don't know or anything. I'm just trying to, figure out certain things about our own, which we don't really know very clearly about. We all of us are shooting in the dark. Assassinated by a man. Yeah, he was assassinated by a man. You're right. Yeah, he was accidentally, I think, arrow was shot with something, and it was in his heel or some such thing, right? He was, I think, like, yeah, some such thing, right? So the question is, the gods themselves, and that is again, that itself is karma, right? See, Krishna is the thing of karma. Okay, Vishnu is not killed. Krishna is only an avatar. Krishna can be killed. Okay, I mean, all the avatars had to go through stages. Rama could die, Krishna could die. Vishnu cannot die. But Vishnu, in various, is a manifestation. Krishna is only a manifestation of God in a human incarnation, right? You get me? Okay. He's not the original God. Vishnu cannot die. I don't know you. I mean, you'll have to talk. I think Vishnu was he cursed anytime. I don't know. You'll have to talk about this. But the point is, even cursing by a rishi or some such thing, okay, is some kind of what do you say? It's mechanistic in some sense. It is not occult. Okay, a rishi's powers are not occult powers. Like witches' powers are occult powers. They're not the same thing, right? Like for example, look. I mean, let me put it this way: if you do penance standing on one leg or whatever for 10 years or some such thing, right? You acquire, gods cannot deny you powers. So these powers automatically come to you. They are not occult things. You get me? I don't know. Okay. This is the way I see it. I don't see that the Indian tradition is particularly hospitable to occult forces. It's not particularly. Okay. It seems to be that everything is sort of generally mechanistic. You believe in certain things. Yeah, it's mechanistic. This is my sense of Indian tradition. That seems to be the case. So we go to the next film. Any questions up to here? I think this is the best adaptation of Macbeth. I don't like Kurosawa's film. Kurosawa has people riding horses all the time. He's very good at choreography. There's nothing much happening in choreography except that there's choreography in Kurosawa's films. I don't think much of his Throne of Blood. Okay. I
So,
mean, sorry?
there is a 2015 Macbeth also, no, sir? I don't know who the
I
director
don't know
is.
it. I'm not seen it, but I'm not very this guy, Fassbender, right?
I
The
I
direct
don't know,
actor
sir.
was Michael Fassbender.
Let me just check,
Yeah, I
sir.
think so. Yeah, I haven't seen it, but I don't present. It's not an easy play. Polanski is a brilliant filmmaker, and you can see that opening scene of Macbeth. I don't know, that kind of witches, that the ambience of the witches, which film has done that, and to give it that kind of density, that kind of power that scene has. Okay, these three old crones. Who you see, the point is this: these three old crones are themselves subject to death, right? One is feeble. Okay, you just look at it. Okay, they have powers, but they are not timeless, they're not ageless, they are not, they are not witches, they are themselves, trying to shelter from the cold. Okay, you get me? They're also human. You have to get the point that the witches are human in this fellows, except that they have powers. They are still human in some way, right? The
Yeah.
powers are occult, the witches are not occult beings, right?
Yes, yes, yes,
Okay,
sir.
so they're
Yes,
still
sir.
human. Okay, there's that basic thing you have to understand. The powers they have are occult. They're still
Yes, sir.
human beings. This is not true of ghostly creatures that come in Kurosawa's thing. They're actually
Mhm.
they're not human at all. Okay, so
Yes,
this is what Polanski has done in his film. That is very interesting because he gives it a certain an edge outside politics. The thing on the checking out on politics and all that, above politics in some sense. At the same time, from people who are excluded from the exercise of earthly power. Okay, let's go to the next one.
yes, yes,
Let's go to
yes.
Talk to Her. Now, Talk to Her is a very, very completely different kind of film. Okay, it's
Well,
basically, what is the thing of Talk to Her? What do you take to Talk to Her? Okay, what is the general thing about the film? Or what is it about? What is the one emotion or whatever one this thing that the film is about? Okay, it's about love, right?
yeah,
Okay, it's
yeah,
about love. The entire thing is about love, the nature of love and all that. And it's actually, see, what he does is, okay, so the what he does in this film is that finally affirmation of love after death. Okay, let's go step by step. It's what Peter Brooks called in it's a melodrama. Okay, it's a melodrama because a certain suitable ends are arranged for people. There is something, people watching over other people. There are miracles happening. They're not called miracles, but they are coincidences and that sort of thing, and they perform the thing of miracles. So what Peter Brooks it's not Peter Brook who is the theater director, but Peter Brooks, he wrote a book called the Melodramatic Imagination, what he called the moral occult in melodramas, which is a metaphysical physical system that rewards and punishes, which he called the moral occult. Okay. Now the first thing in the film is that the people's emotions, they mesh with each other. You get me? What I mean? We will talk about it later. They mesh with each other. Well, one A says that he did it to about that he loves B. Okay, and this point of complete understanding. Okay, men are friends. Their friendships, they fully understand each other. You get me? Okay, so there are no gaps in understanding between people. When people say they love each other, there is no reason to doubt anybody when he says he loves so and so. Okay, this issue of whether the person loves so and so, or the issue of whether he doesn't love so and so, whether it's true love or false love, is never drawn into question. These emotions as expressed are the true emotions. You get me? Okay, so as in Ugetsu, there are two parallel stories here. The first is that of Marco and Marco. Who is Marco? Yeah, Marco. He
the
loves
nurse,
Lydia. Lydia is
the
the bullfighter, right? He
okay,
meets
yeah,
Lydia,
yeah,
falls in love with her for whatever. He's in love
yeah,
with her. They also,
yeah,
and it's again,
yeah,
see that love between the two, between Marco and Lydia. Though Lydia finally says that she has gone back to her first bullfighting lover or whatever. Okay,
mhm,
but the point is the fact from the way they exchange glances, from the way they look at each other, the ready way, and the ready way in which the tears come to people's eyes. You notice that right?
Mm-hmm.
The
Yeah.
tears in some way when he watches a performance in a play, right? Tears come very freely to people's eyes, which is actually some kind of proof of their capacity to be genuinely feel, right? Okay. So
Mm-hmm.
Marco genuinely feels, tears come. When so and so dies, tears come. When he thinks about his past love, tears come. When he watches a performance, tears come. So actually, it's a kind of it's a kind of evidence of his feelings being true. Okay, there is never a question of those emotions being called into question. You get me? The other is benigno.
Benigno. Yeah.
So benigno is what this chap does in this particular film.
The nurse.
Yeah.
The nurse. Yeah. He
Now,
plays.
this Marco's relationship with Lydia is a sanctioned relationship. Okay. Both are adults, both are there, and it's a completely above board relationship. And what does Marco take this, what's her name, Lydia to be? Okay. Marco takes Lydia to be dead, right? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
He treats her as dead.
Yeah.
He's sitting beside her because she's brain dead. It's just a matter of time before she's brain dead. A miracle could happen, the doctor says. I give you hope. A miracle could happen, but it is unlikely, he says. And Marco takes that the brain dead condition, likely brain dead condition of that woman to be death, right?
Mm-hmm.
Benigno, as a
Convincing.
nurse, is an unsanctioned relationship. Okay, he's in a relationship, but the question is, he does not. The point is, does he love her or does he not? No, the question is, when everybody else in the film says he loves so and so, he loves so and so, and no doubt is there, we cannot. No, you're not led to doubt that Benigno also loves Alicia, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what this fellow does, what this chap does, what's his name, Almodovar does in this film is that he goes on talking about her, talking to her in a coma, right? Okay. Now the point is, by all things, being a woman in a coma, she's dead. So when he has a child by her, or she has a child by him, or whatever, rape. The issue is rape. What this guy does is he throws some doubt on the fact that this whether it's love or not love. It is not sanctioned as love. It is rape for which is punished, earthly punished in terms of in jail. He is sent to jail where he commits suicide because he feels there is no possibility. But the thing is, what happens is that Alicia regains consciousness. In spite
Yeah.
of that, she regains consciousness and she comes back. She loses a child, she regains consciousness. It's a kind of miracle, right? Now that is the occult element in the film. Okay, the occult in this film is use an affirmation of Benigno's love. You get me?
Yeah.
Benigno,
Yes.
he's not, for example, Almodovar is far too clever to tell you that Benigno was unfairly punished. No,
Mm-hmm.
Benigno was punished. It was legally, what he did was rape. Okay, he was punished legally. It was rape. But the point is, the one thing about these melodramas is, one thing, there is a reward for virtue. Another thing is that reward need not necessarily be on earth. You get me?
Mm-hmm.
That reward that doesn't mean that it end happily. A person may die. A person having done good may suffer all his life and die. But there is redemption. You get me? Okay.
Yeah.
Here, it's because of this occult element, there's a certain redemption which Benigno is allowed. And what happens finally? What happens finally is, okay, if you actually look at the mechanistic thing of the film, Benigno is a rapist, okay, and what he has done is akin to necrophilia come rape. It's ghastly in every possible sense. But what Almodovar has done is, okay, he has taken this guy and tried to sort of, shall we say, redeem him in some way. You get me?
Yeah.
Okay, his unsanctioned love is actually genuinely love. But
Mm-hmm.
he's not going to tell you that. He's not going to tell you that in the film. But the miracle finally, when finally Alicia recognizes Marco, he has been going into he's been going into the ward. He's been talking to her. Of course, they say, look, I'm only dealing with this aspect of the movie. There's a lot more in the movie than this.
Yeah.
This question of
Yeah.
sexuality, all this. What about what is that shrinking man and all that stuff? There's a lot of stuff that I won't go into that. I'm just looking at this occult thing of this aspect of the film, which is that there is still redemption, that what's his name, Benigno is redeemed somehow, right? And why, and what is the thing, she was brain dead. How does she recognize Marco? recognizes Marco, right? In some subliminal level, right? That Marco, she sees Marco in that performance of Pina Bausch performance. She sees him, okay? And immediately there's eye contact, there is understanding, there's recognition. You get me? How, when she has never seen Marco, when outside her coma, and you remember that, she keeps, her eyes keep opening. Nothing registers, okay? It's weird, he says, that the people with comas have their eyes opening. So you got this sense of what I'm telling you. So the point is, Marco is seen by her at some particular point, as a result of which there is a recognition, which is against all scientific doctrine, right? Okay.
Yes,
It's against scientific doctrine. She could not, since she was in a coma. Okay, but the point is, in this film, he does something, he makes it a miracle of some sort, in order to affirm or whatever, to sort of redeem Benigno. You got me? You got me? Okay. No, that completes this movie. Okay, the question is, this miracle is very important. Any questions up to here?
So, but is it, I mean, after that he's taken for the rape accusation,
Yeah.
is it proved legally, sir? I mean, or is
Yeah,
it
no,
just...
there's no doubt that he has raped her. Okay. There is no doubt at all. Okay. The point is, the fact that, but the point is, that is rape only. That there's no doubt about it. That's why he's convicted. Because he's nobody else there, right? He's the only person. He's actually done it, he accepts it also. He virtually accepts it, what he has done. He doesn't call it rape, but the point is, it is rape by all. The question is punished.
Right.
The world does, the film will not make out the case that he's punished unfairly. Okay.
Right.
It will not make out, he's punished fairly and squarely, because legality is some particular thing. He deserves punishment. You cannot rely on this miraculous to justify you legally.
Right.
Okay. You cannot offer it as justification, but it can be cause for redemption. You get me? Okay.
Right.
So the point is, the chap is redeemed in some way by the narrative because of this occult element of love. This very important thing of love, that this thing of, that you talk to them, you talk to this entire thing of love is, there is no doubt at all that this film is love is the crucial thing.
Love also, it's just one-sided, sir. I mean, like,
No, it's not. No. Wait a minute. You're talking about Benigno and her.
Benigno. Yeah.
Benigno and her is the point is, it's one-sided. It seems to be, okay, but the point is this: the very fact that she comes out of it and she's benefited by it, right?
Right.
Okay, he's not going to tell you that. Okay, he's not going to tell you that. He just arranges a miracle in a certain way, as a kind of, redemptive event, right? That's what he's not going to tell you. By all this thing of imagination, it is one-sided. But the point is, he arranges a miracle in such a way, including Alicia's recognition of Marco. Okay, that basically there is some mystery, that occult element, that mystery is possible.
Yeah.
Okay, it could be seen as coincidence, it could be seen as occult, right? You could be whatever, you could see it that way. But the point is, the film points towards the occult in some way. It does that, right? Okay. So redemption, that entire thing of redemption which it brings in, is what makes it occult. So I presume no questions up to this point. Then we'll go to L'Avventura. Okay. L'Avventura. All of you seen L'Avventura? It's probably the greatest Italian movie. I mean, the greatest Italian film ever made. What is happening in L'Avventura? In L'Avventura, the film is built around the disappearance of a girl on an island. Okay, her boyfriend and her best friend, okay, keep on searching for her everywhere, don't find her. Okay, what is given possibly one visually in the first part of the movie on the island? What is given visual emphasis? Can you tell me what is given visual emphasis in the first part of the movie? Anybody tell me? I want you to tell me what is this image which stays in your head?
So that he is not, comforting his girlfriend.
No, the image. What, don't you think the image is of those crevices and the water coming into those crevices between the island, the edges of the island? Okay, you get that feeling that she's fallen in. It could have fallen in. That point is made, right? Those crevices. I mean, okay, you're getting my. You are agreeing with me? Okay.
Yeah.
So those crevices are very important, in my opinion, of the way you read the story. It's not that it's just fallen into the crevices. Let's examine this a little. It's a complicated thing, slightly more difficult than the other ones. Okay. The point here is, these two are not in love with each other. Okay, they're generally together because the other woman is not there. Never do they affirm their love. They happen to be together as a way of searching for her. Okay, there is no evidence that the man loved the other woman either. Okay, there was some problem about marrying her and all that. There was some problem. Okay, the thing is that these two are together to search for her. They never find her, and the point is the absolutely silly, pretext at which they follow, chase this clue, chase that clue, looking for her, never find her, right? Okay. The question is, if they find her and the woman turns up, they themselves will have to part because the man will go off with the woman, right? So the question is, that whole thing is left tenuous in some sense, that what exactly, why are these people together? What is the reason they're together? Okay. The point is, okay, we have, so we can't read this thing of what happened to the woman. I think if you ask me, my personal thing is, what happened to the woman is of crucial importance in the film, but there is no explanation given. What exactly, where did she disappear? Where did she go? I think is a crucial issue in the film, right? If you look at the film, if you look at the various events, then you have to interpret the film through the various images. One is, those reporters are following some woman. She seems to be a celebrity. Nobody knows why they're following her. Okay. So later on, she turns up in some party somewhere. She turns out to be a prostitute. Okay. A lot is made of her. Now, what is the reason for this? It seems to be that people are following various things. They're following cues. They're following this without a real motive of why they're pursuing something. People are doing something. They keep doing the same thing. These people are also going on pursuing this woman. There's no chance at all. Oh, we saw her, we caught somewhere, you go here, you go there, you go here, that kind of thing. We saw her there. You keep on going into various and these parties and all that. There's a sense of, in fact, if you ask me, it's completely the opposite of talk to her. Okay, this entire relationships between people here is, there is no communication between people. There's no understanding between people of what they want. A doesn't know what B wants. A acts on his own. Everybody is there. Everybody is fragmented. They seem to be together, but everybody is on his own trip, on his own personal thing, right? Okay. Sexual pursuit of money, pursuit of power, or some such thing, or doing various things. Nothing seems to have gel in any way. It's somewhat like your Russian films, right? Like Cargo 200. Okay. Cargo 200, or even, what is that? Kristoliev, My Car. Okay. These films also, there is no sense of, of people gelling, meshing with each other, right? You get me? Okay, they're not meshing with each other.
Yes.
But the point is, here, that is the whole point of the film. Okay. In Cargo 200, it's just an incidental condition when they in the political situation they're describing. That people no longer talk to each other. People are think that understanding is no longer possible. We'll go into why that is so. Okay. Now, when you go into this thing of, then there is, okay. So the question is, you're talking about a situation. What do you make of that situation where the church bells are? Okay, one more metaphor. Very striking thing, right? One striking thing is the crevices. Another striking thing is these fellows pursuing some woman. God only knows for what reason. Okay, and later on she turns out to be a common prostitute or whatever. It's of no consequence. But the point is, she's of nobody of importance. But they're still following her as if she's a person of great importance, as if something is hanging by her thing, and it's of great importance. The third important thing is this church bell. If you ask me, the church bell. When he rings the bell,
there is someone here.
This thing, immediately when I saw this thing, my immediate thought is, what is the function of a church bell? It seems to be to stitch spaces together, right? Okay, sound stitches the spaces together, right? So you could talk about it, that these gaps which are there, and I would, that's why in the slide I talked about the fabric of the universe, right? The fabric of the world. This film is basically, what it's dealing with seems to be about the gaps in the fabric of the universe, of the world. What exactly do you mean by the fabric of the world? The fabric of the world is made up of human understanding of the world, number one, right? Okay. Relationships between people. In fact, somebody, I don't know who said, the world is not composed of objects, right? Fundamental thing. Look, please, I mean, I'm just, I don't know who I'm talking to. Okay, I want to know whether you people are making sense of this, right? The
Yes,
world
yes,
is
it
not
does.
composed of objects. The world is composed of relationships. You get me?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So the point is, if the objects are there, the relationships are not there, which means that the fabric of the world is disrupted. There are gaps, there are tears in the fabric of the world. Okay. So I think my own understanding of this thing is that this entire thing of, of gaps in what is the understanding of the world? Understanding of the world is by and large absence of faith. The fact that Christian faith is lost, that man no longer believes in anything. Now, if you look at something like Cargo 200, if you look at something, if you look at something like Cargo 200, if you look at the gaps between people, I mean, again, it's not done deliberately as in this film. It's talking about a state of affairs where that understanding that you have in Talk to Her. Why is there no understanding? Why is there so much understanding in Talk to Her? Can you answer this question?
So
The
it's
reason there is
because I think, it's more of a materialistic approach.
no, I'll tell you what.
Uh,
Talk to Her. Okay, there is this belief in love. You get me?
yeah,
Love as unifying force,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
There's love as
yeah.
unifying force, and that belief in love keeps people together, keeps society together. It's some kind of thing, an affirmation of society, right? In Laventura, it's not an affirmation at all, because he's talking about the destruction of that fabric. There is no single belief. One possible thing, what is it which is lacking is faith, which is why when that guy is painting the church or some such thing, he's drawing the church, he's talking about an architecture
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
pertaining to
understood. Yeah.
what people believed in some way. Okay, some belief in
Mhm.
in a unifying thing, right? When he talked about the unifying belief in something, he finds that ridiculous
Mm.
today to do on this, so he spills ink on that, right? You remember the drawing?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
The other guy
remember
tries,
too.
he picks
Yeah,
up a
yeah,
quarrel with that.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, so the question is that faith is one of the things. It's not only faith, right?
Mm-hmm.
It is some kind of faith is an element in that particular thing, in which that there's a universe has the world has a fabric, a single fabric of understanding. People are able to understand the world in some way. It makes sense in some way, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you look at the Russian films like Cargo 200, if you look at the fabric of the world as torn in Cargo 200, what is constitutes the fabric of the world in Cargo 200? I mean, I'm not saying that this movie has anything to do with it. What is your understanding of it? Anybody has any idea? It is dealing with post-communist society, or rather post-Marxist society when Marxism is already collapsed, right? You're talking about that. Now, the point is, we look at early Soviet movies. If you look at not very
Mm-hmm.
early, even in the 60s, look at movies in the 60s, you look at Soviet movies in the 60s, there's still some sense of the working class being there. There's still some sense of the nation progressing. There's still some sense of of a proletariat somehow. There is still some sense of a nation which is progressing in history. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But when you come to something like Cargo 200, when you're dealing with the 84, 85, okay, he's dealing with the situation when that belief in Marxism, okay, Marxism is to Cargo 200, you could say, what Christian faith is to Laventura. Am I making sense here? Okay,
Yes,
you get me?
yes.
Except that this whole point in Laventura is Christian is a loss of faith. It's a
Mm-hmm.
loss of faith, a loss of thing, the world not making sense. It's not that
Yeah,
this is a
yeah.
religious movie. He's
Mm-hmm.
virtually, what would you say to a world? Look, this is slightly difficult subject, right? So I want you to think about it, right? And interrupt me if you find it difficult to believe. What would you say about a world in which nothing makes sense? Okay, especially religious belief. You would say God is dead?
Mm-hmm.
Would you say that? Right. I would say that Laventura is using the occult image, okay, occult thing. I mean, look, I would, yeah, lack of communication, but there is an occult element here. Modernism, yes, it is modernist, all right, but it's a lack of communication, nothing of modernist, agreed. But the point is, it's not simply that I'm talking about the occult imagery here, and most important of all, I would say, okay, is that thing in the ghost, most striking is that image in the ghost town. You remember that image in the ghost town? The camera is looking through somebody's eyes. We don't know whose eyes they are. You
Mm-hmm.
remember that striking scene They go to this ghost town. It's on a hilltop. They're looking at it. They go there. They're exploring it, and suddenly you see a camera from the top looking at them. Okay, then the camera goes along. Are you familiar with the scene? Have you forgotten the scene?
I'm not able to recall, sir.
When did you
I'm
see
not
it?
able to.
Recently? Old? Long ago?
No, I saw it quite a while back.
Yeah. You must see this again. Okay, there is a scene in which these people go to this ghost town on a hilltop.
Mm-hmm.
There's nobody. It's completely uninhabited. Other people remember the scene. Then they go there, and then suddenly you see, ghost town sequence, right? And suddenly you see this, slow tracking shot, okay, in which it is as if somebody is watching them. Okay, it's a point of view of some unnamed ghostly presence. What is that ghostly presence? Do you make sense of that? Indifferent. It won't move. Whatever they do, it remains at that point after they've left for briefly of 2 or 3 seconds. Okay, what is that ghostly presence in that town, that ghost town? It's called ghost town. It seems to be a ghost. What is that ghost? What is that? I mean, does anybody have any? I mean, look, anybody. I mean, look, whatever I am saying is as valid as what anybody, any of you will say. Any kind of thing. It's not that I have any superior knowledge of this particular thing, right? I'm just speculating of what that thing. Why is so striking? What is this fellow trying to do in this movie? Is what I'm trying to do. He won't tell you what he's trying to do. No, what do you say? Critic will tell you in the world. No thing on Laventura will tell you whose eyes there. So you're supposed to speculate like I'm. My own thing is it is God. Okay, but it is God who's no longer omniscient, no longer omnipotent, who can't do anything, who's not even, shall we say, is indifferent to human beings. Okay, it's reduced to some presence in some, it's located itself in some corner of somewhere. Okay, he no longer has any worthwhile presence in the world. Okay, it's been reduced to a ghost almost. This is a possible explanation. I'm not saying it's the only explanation, but the point is that thing conveys that complete thing, that omniscient thing is over. Everything is completely indifferent to what happens to mankind. So when you say that mankind no longer, there's no longer a fabric, which is a fabric of reason or fabric of thing, unifying the world, when you talk about it no longer unifying the world, then what are you saying exactly? You're saying that God is dead, and you say God is dead. Where is the thing? So the Christian thing is over. That thing of faith is over. This thing of gaps in human reason, this thing, it's all over, right? So this is what I take that film to be. What exactly is the? So my sense is like that. That it's retreated to something. So it seems to be okay that when a certain belief in a unifying factor, in a unifying, unifying law, unifying order is lost, you will get this complete, people not understanding each other, people gaps in understanding, gaps in, communication. Okay, people talk at loggerheads, people, the entire thing of the absurd theater and all this. It's a loss of communication. Modernism was one of them. But modernist things went, modernist, in many ways. Modernism was actually a retreat from the classical, which is a belief. What is the thing about modern physics? You tell me. As opposed to classical physics, modern physics is subjectivity coming to the fore, right? You're no longer talking about the world as existing in itself, as having laws in itself. It entirely, the subjectivity of the observer comes into modern physics, right? Quantum mechanics, you get the relativity. It's all epistemology. It is mankind looking at itself, looking at, trying to look at how it looks at the world. It's not looking at the world as much as its own self looking at the world. It's studying itself. So the same question, what happens here also is the self-absorption, this thing, which you have in Laventura, that there is no unifying thing, there is no objective universe, there is nothing, okay, that everybody is for himself kind of thing, that fabric of the universe is lost. This is my sense of Laventura, okay? So I will, yeah, please.
I'm just wondering, sir, in the final scene also, when she reconciles, is there a occult element or something?
The final scene is just despair of some sort, right? They're completely. It seems to be that they reach some kind of mutual thing of despair of some sort of complete. They're united in both of them, recognizing it. In fact, you look in a movie, you need an ending, right? They're united in understanding the state of the world. You could say, okay. There's
That way.
nothing.
All
Yeah,
right.
united in understanding the hopelessness of the situation they're in, the moral, metaphysical hopelessness, the religious hopelessness of the situation they're in. That is my understanding of love and Tura. If anybody has any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. It's not questions so much as doubts or issues. I mean, it's a difficult film. It's a very difficult film, and this question of what exactly the occult element here is. It's more a question of it's a kind of it's not a faith in the occult as much as using the occult imagery of a certain sort in order to make a certain point. Okay. So I think it uses all. Do you agree that do you at least agree that all these movies use the occult in some way?
So definitely, sir. La Ventura, if not that, it is also a mystery when the woman suddenly disappears.
Yeah, disappear. But the point is those crevices, in my opinion.
Yeah,
Okay, when I saw this film, immediately those crevices stuck in my mind. Tears in the cloth. Okay.
yeah.
The cloth is there, the fabric is there, a tear. So something has happened there. It's actually a kind of tear in the fabric of it's a kind of metaphor for that. That is why there's so much is made of that. I don't know which Antonioni would I explain it this way, explain this film this way. I don't know if anybody will explain this film this way. I saw somewhere else some other person trying to explain it in terms of the hunting of the snark. Have you aware of this poem, The Hunting of the Snark by Lewis Carroll, where an animal called the snark is there, and but the point is there's one category of snark called the bujam. So the people are all trying to find this snark. They can't find the snark. Finally, they find a snark, and but then this bujam is a snark. If you look at it, you'll disappear without a trace. So finally, the last thing is they see, and the snark turns out to be a bujam. And the last line is the snark was a bujam, you see. He says snark and stops there, and nothing more is seen of that guy. For the snark was a bujam, you see. So somebody was making a point about La Ventura being about snark, hunting of the snark in the bujam and all that. Okay. So, but my own understanding is that this is the way the film works. It seems to work in some plausible way. My explanation seems to be plausible. Does anybody have any issues with that? Okay. I hope I made sense in this thing. Okay.
Yes,
Because
yes.
I want
It
the
does,
others
sir.
also to
It
be
does.
okay. Is it occult? Occult said all Creek, but not so much. I'll tell you why. The reason is, I would suggest occurrence at Owl Creek Bridge is not occult because it's all explanation is psychological. You get me? Okay.
Yeah.
The explanation in incident at Owl Creek Bridge is all psychological, right? That the point is this was happening in his mind. This was happening in his mind, right? Okay. This is what was happening in his mind. So I would suggest, rather than incident at Owl Creek Bridge, an occult version of it, somewhat similar version, I think much greater story, is this thing by Borges, Jorge Luis Borges, Jorge Luis, Jorgeluis Borges. Okay, this story of his called The Secret Miracle. Read The Secret Miracle. Okay. And you have again 5 or 6 pages, a very short thing. It's a brilliant thing, somewhat like an incident at Owl Creek Bridge. But I think there's an occult element there. Some god comes in, something is there. There's definitely an occult element there in that. I'm not so sure about Owl Creek Bridge because it seems to work entirely on the thing of what goes on in a man's head. Of course, in some sense, yeah.
Yes.
No, you can probably, it's not psychological because if you say that so much happens in a mind, there's actually some element of uncertainty, right? What is my mind is, what goes on in a person's mind, what is, so there is, so in that sense it is there, but it's not supernatural in the conventional sense. Okay. So that is the basic thing. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Right.
So thank you so much, sir.
All right, no problem.
And thank you everyone for joining in.